on, YouTube? Greetings and salutations from Minnesota. Look at here. The beanie, the noggin, my noodle, got a little sunburned. Been a little warm up here in Minnesota. We're finally getting some warm weather and some sunshine. But what I want to talk about today is suspension and towing things. All things RV suspension and towing. First off, what I want to do is show you on my tow vehicle, which is a 2022 Silverado 1-ton Duramax diesel truck. I've run airbags on many of my vehicles, but I've also run something that's called timbrins. And if you don't know what timbrins are, in your rear suspension, you have what are called bump stops that sit above your spring pack or your leaf pack. Other people call them jounts. That's another sort of scientific term for it, I guess. But bump stops or timbrins are designed as a more economical way to take a lot of sag out of your springs, and they offer you a heck of a lot more suspension travel. If you look at your suspension in the rear over the spring pack and you see the bump stops or the jounces, they're just tiny. So the timbrins, which I'm going to show you here, let me reverse the camera. So if you look underneath, forgive my truck's a little dirty, we had some rain, but let me get up in here. So if you look right there, you see that black rubber looking thing? Come on, focus, Danielson, focus. There it is, right there. What that does is it shortens the distance of travel when you put extreme weight or load onto it. They work very, very well. I've used them on quite a few other campers before. And yeah, it's just nice because with airbags, you have to always maintain a certain amount of pressure. And it's, excuse the sunlight there, it's a little bit more maintenance than just having timbrins installed. And I like the timbrins because when you're not using them, the truck sits up high enough to where you go over hard bumps and imperfections in the road, potholes, all that kind of stuff. You still don't get that heavy jolt or bounce that you normally would. So I'm going to reverse the camera again. About your pin box on your camper. Very important piece of equipment, people. Now this, I've had the Rotoflex before. I'm super partial to the MORryde rubber cushion pin box. As you can see, you have the nylon puck system in here, and you've got travel. See this piston right here? So this will move back and forth, and it'll also pivot up and down a little bit. So it takes a lot of that chucking and bucking out of the highway. So if you're running a rigid mounted pin box, I highly suggest looking into something like the Rotoflex or the MORryde. Everybody's kind of got their preference. If you're experienced in the RV world, I'm sure you'll leave a few comments about what your favorite is. And I'd like to hear it from you. I want to know what your favorite pin box is that made a major difference. It was kind of a game changer for you. For us, our very first camper, which was a 2018 Grand Design 349M toy hauler, had a rigid mount pin box. And then when we stepped up to a newer model, it came with this particular style pin box, and it made a huge, huge difference. Now another thing, in your tow vehicle, so this truck in particular, this has a 36-gallon fuel tank. Well, when you're pulling these behemoths down the highway, that 7 to 9 mile per gallon range can suck that fuel down in a heck of a hurry, a big hurry, and that's no fun. That shortens up your duration and time that you can travel. So what I did is, a couple years back, I started running what's called an auxiliary fuel tank. And if you don't know what that is, I'll show you the one that I used to run in my truck. I've got a different one coming that I'm going to be using. But this guy right here, this is a 55-gallon auxiliary fuel tank. This one does not have the electronic pump. If you look down here, you'll see a petcock right there. That's to shut on and off for the fuel. So there's an installation kit that you put into the filler neck of your truck. You cut into the filler neck You install this T-splice with a line on it, and that connects to here. And when you need fuel, you can stop and just flip that valve, and that gives you 55 extra gallons of fuel, which is an absolute game changer. That puts our travel distance from just under 300 miles on the stock factory tank to upwards of over 700 miles. So when we're traveling, it's nice, even though we have dogs, when we're traveling, we'll stop probably twice to let the dogs out and potty. We'll hit a rest area, but that eliminates me having to hit the truck stops or the truck fuel lanes when we're traveling. And a big factor for that is because we like to double tow. If you don't know what double towing is, that's when you connect another trailer to your camper trailer. Now, a lot of these come with factory hitches, and most of those hitches are rated for a 300-pound tongue weight or 3,000-pound towing capacity. So that means your trailer and whatever you're putting onto that trailer cannot be over 3,000 pounds. Now, this camper that you see behind me did not come with a factory hitch. I've been in touch with the manufacturer. I've been in touch with other people on the KZ Durango Gold Forum who have had hitches installed from the dealerships onto their campers, not voiding the warranty. So let me show you what that's all about. Take you for a little walk to the back of the camper here. Now basically what's going to happen, I'm going to take you on a little journey. It was supposed to happen tomorrow, but the technician's welder broke down, so we had to get a new one today. So what we're going to be doing is, he was out here last weekend and he took measurements underneath here. He's actually going to fabricate a hitch that we're going to be welding onto this I-beam underneath of this camper. When that happens, I'm going to film that for you. I'm going to take you along on that journey so you can see what happens and how double towing actually works. It's pretty darn cool. The reason we do that is because when we go back and forth to Arizona, my KRX, that machine right there, a rock crawler, that comes with us. So I'll put up some photos and different rigs that we've had that we've double towed with. But every state has their own regulations and rules when it comes to double towing. There's actually a page on Facebook dedicated called RV Double Tow. So if you go to that Facebook page, you'll be able to see different rigs and what people do, but states have lengths anywhere from 65 foot total. That means your truck, trailer, and trailer combined up to 75 feet total. You'd have to check with your state regulations if you decide that you want to try double towing and see what that's all about. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. I've been, as most of you know, I'm a contractor, so I'm used to pulling very big, heavy trailers. I think there's one or two states that require an endorsement. I think one of those is California, correct me if I'm wrong, where you have to have an endorsement for pulling double trailers. And I know that most states, I know Idaho doesn't, but most states require, like here in Minnesota, if you're going to double tow, you can only do it with a fifth wheel camper. You cannot do it with a bumper pull with another trailer behind it. So that's another regulation that you're going to watch out for. But then, let me switch the camera again. Another thing that's kind of a good thing to see is your camper suspension. Now, I know it's kind of dark under here. This is the new Alltrek from Moride. This is the new Alltrek 4000. This replaces the Cree 3000 and the one that was before that. But this has much, much heavier duty shackles and wet bolts than any of the other systems I've had on my camper. I know a lot of people have been stepping up and spending the money to have what's called IS, or independent suspension, onto their campers. A lot of them have been going down to Indiana to have that done at the Moride factory. I looked into it for this camper. They're actually booked up until November. But independent suspension, which replaces your factory axles, it's a completely different system. It's more like a heavy-duty vehicle system. designed to absorb much more road shock and road abuse. And I know the people that I know that have it absolutely love, love, love having it. So that's another thing. If you're an avid RVer, full-timer, if you put a lot of miles on your rig, independent suspension might be something that you want to look into. There's several different ones out there on the road. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tagging along. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you guys run for your tow truck. If you're running airbags or Timberins, what it is that you prefer or like to use for your suspension in the back of the truck. If it's airbags, if you like the Load Lifter 5000 or 7000 or the Firestone airbags, whatever you have, I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you're running Timberins, I'd love to hear what you think about them. If you're running an auxiliary fuel tank or you're thinking about doing it, feel free to leave a comment or ask. I'll be installing that this weekend, so I'm going to take you along on the installation of that. And actually, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, how easy it is to actually put that into your vehicle. It does eat up some of the bed space, so if that's a factor, you have to think about that. Also, a factor you have to think about is your camper, as far as the pin weight, what your truck is rated for, what your cargo carrying capacity is for your truck. So for us, with the pin weight of that camper, with 2 passengers and our dogs, and a few other items loaded into the truck, that fuel tank is going to add about 370 pounds of fuel. So I'm going to be right at my level of what I can safely tow that this vehicle is rated for. So those are all things you have to keep in mind. But stick around or tune in tomorrow. I'm going to put up a video of installing the I'm brain dead today. Auxiliary fuel tank. They're super nice to have, you guys. It avoids a lot of fuel stops. And again, if you're into double towing, you're pretty well restricted to the truck lanes, which can be a bit of a finesse game getting in and out. So we're going to talk more about double towing, but tomorrow we're going to install that aftermarket auxiliary fuel tank. So come on along. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you like and subscribe the channel. See you then.